All right, so the other day I made a video about how e-bikes are about to become much more expensive in the United States. And today they're going to become even more expensive than the much more expensive that I said last time, as in probably double that much more expensive as to the much more expensive that it previously was going to be. They're already very expensive. Let's not fool anybody. E-bikes are just pricey. Compared to a regular pedal bike, you're looking at like a 30 to 50 to sometimes 60% upcharge just on the fact that it has a battery and a motor and a controller, which I mean, to a lot of people, if you've ever ridden an e-bike, there's not much else like it. It's all the fun of riding a bicycle plus a little bit of the capability of like the maneuverability of having like a moped. It pretty much enables you to do a range of things that you can't do any way otherwise. You can't really, ride a bike to work, but you can an e-bike. It depends on how far your job is, of course. If it's a few miles and how, depending on how dedicated of a cyclist you are, of course, that varies for everybody. But one of the main things you see e-bikes for, of course, is, like a car replacement. People use these to replace their cars. They're about to get more expensive. Today, tariffs on China is set to rise at least 104% on Wednesday. That is tomorrow. Here's the thing. When I talk about e-bikes, I'm talking about the e-motos. Everybody imports these, right? Everyone gets them from China one way or another. It doesn't matter where they end up selling them, whether it's a direct-to-consumer retailer, if it's a power sports store, no matter what, they all come on these cargo containers that you see in this picture on a boat from China. They land in a port in America, typically the port of Long Beach or a different port in the south of the East Coast. They go through customs and then they go to the place where they are then sold to you. In all these steps, the price just kind of goes up a little bit. And now it's about to go up 100% on the first step when it comes from the boat to the port. A lot of people in the last video said, I'm going to pay a lot more. I mentioned that I had an order of e-bikes coming in. I am not. I and many other people who buy bikes directly from China, we have a contract that has a clause that requires DDP. That means delivered duty paid. In other words, the seller pays for everything until it arrives at your doorstep. This is how I advise everybody to do it. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to buying an e-bike on Alibaba, it's very tricky. It's almost impossible to do your first time cleanly and the way that some of us who have been doing it for a while. I have a service down linked in the description where I walk you through it if you're interested. If you don't want to go through all the crazy steps of trying to figure it out yourself, I basically streamline it for you. I used to do this for free for people, but too many people took advantage, wasted my time and or made bad mistakes and blamed me for it when I was just there trying to help. So now I charge for it. That's down in the description if you're interested in getting yourself an e-bike, not just like an e-moto, but like pretty much any e-bike. You'd be surprised at the amount of options of things you can get that come just straight from China. And then when they get here, they have a label from a company put on them and then they're sold to you. Basically what you're paying for when you buy from a retailer in the USA is like the peace of mind, warranty, stuff like that. You knowing that like if something goes wrong, you have someone to like reach out to and say like, hey, this broke. What do I do? When you import a bike, you don't really get any of that, right? So this is not like a new thing for people who import stuff. If you run a business, that's kind of the entire premise of Alibaba. It's like you get it at the lowest price possible, right? Because you cut out all of the middlemen, basically. Comes from the boat, port, you. So that's that. Anyways, make sure you always get DDP if you're doing anything import related as far as like buying things upwards of $10,000, even less than that, $5,000, and of course over $10,000. DDP. And overall e-bike prices so far, I'm not really seeing any shifts. This is Vora Motors, one of my favorite retailers, and their prices are the same as they were in December and January as far as I can see. I don't see any price raises on any of these. I think the E-Ride Pro SS has gone up by a little bit. Maybe. Actually, I think it might even be the same price. I don't remember if it was $49.99 before when I bought mine or if it was the same price, but still unaffected here. Specialized just dropped their new Turbo Levo bikes, which I thought were going to be exorbitantly more expensive. I'm pretty sure most of the components on this bike, I don't know if they're made in China, but Specialized is a brand known already for premium prices. So even if they did see certain markups on like different components of the bikes that they put together, it'd be easy for them to not pass that on to the consumer because they already have such a high base price in the first place, right? So if they have slightly less margin on their bike overall, it's still not that big of a deal for them. They could still charge the same price they had planned or even lower the price. I'm not quite sure what the Pro Turbo Levo was last generation when it came out, but this is an $11,000 bike. They now have to go toe-to-toe with like DJI Amflow. They have a really impressive mountain bike for sale that you can't buy in the United States, but you can buy in most places in the EU and Australia and stuff. So they're chilling in the US for now, but the whole DJI Amflow, if it's going to come to the USA thing, is a whole nother story. So we're not even going to get into that. This article from AP, China says it will fight to the end after Trump threatens to impose still more tariffs, taking countermeasures against the United States to safeguard its own interests after Trump threatened an additional 50% tariff on Chinese imports. Now, I talk about e-bikes, but you got to remember, this is about to affect a lot of different things that you may or may not use in your everyday life. Definitely a lot of clothes, pretty much any electronic. Think of any like anything that's not consumables, like not gas, not food, like most things, like these two monitors, maybe the camera that I'm filming this on, the computer that I am recording all of it on, stuff like this, phones, AirPods, random things may or may not go up in price, but the point is, at some point, somebody is going to be paying more for it. Whether or not all that gets trickled down to the consumer, I think is going to be a thing that happens gradually over time. It's not going to be like one big 30% jump in price for a lot of things, but I mean, it remains to be seen. But ultimately, it is really just a matter of time before, I know a lot of you guys watch my channel, you like bike stuff. So I'm primarily talking about e-bikes and bicycles in general. They're eventually they're going to become more expensive. Like there's just no way around it, right? I mentioned last time, it's kind of like it's a thing where no retailer, I feel like, really wants to jump out and raise prices and shove that in front of the consumer, because anyone who doesn't is going to have a pretty particular advantage in keeping their prices low for as long as possible. Maybe they can just sell out their inventory, and on the next round, then they hike their prices up. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out in the next few months, though. I thought this was really interesting. I saw this on X earlier. This is from Jason. I work in the bicycle industry, and the impact tariffs are having on my business are profound. The same bike that people were paying $4,000 for during the pandemic is on sale this month for $1,300. The same bike that people were paying $3,500 for is on sale this month for $1,999. Something I want to point out, pandemic bicycle prices are the most inflated they will probably ever be in human history. People were getting banged over the head for bikes during the pandemic. I remember in that time, almost everybody that I know was asking me what type of bike they should get. Like people that I think that would probably had never considered riding a bike ever, even like recreationally or casually ever in their entire life, all of a sudden were very interested in it, because it was like one of the only things you could do where you could go outside and not really interact with people and like, be outside in the first place. So it's kind of a strange example because pandemic prices were sky high. So obviously they're going to be lower. So, I mean, realistically, I don't know what these prices that he's quoting here, what they were on sale compared to like 2 months ago or 4 months ago. I think would be like a better comparison tool to see like what type of markdowns are being provided for bikes or people who are trying to clear out their inventory on bikes that were made in the United States. He goes on to say, bikes built and manufactured in the United States are selling out. Bikes manufactured overseas are reducing their prices to stay competitive with U.S. manufacturers. I'd be interested to see if he's talking about the price that he pays to obtain the inventory, or the price that the overseas manufacturer is selling their product as at MSRP. It could be both. It could be both are going down. Tariffs are definitely impacting my industry, and it's been absolutely amazing for my business. I mean, this is just one case study of a guy who claims that it's actually being helpful for him. If you sell mostly American-made bikes, then you're probably going to fare pretty well, because you're not going to have those big increases. Now, if you run a bike shop, I'm just going to put myself in this guy's shoes, and you have one thing that a lot of bike shop owners that I've spoken to over the last few years say is that there's just a dramatic influx of people who come in and ask about buying e-bikes, right? And a lot of bike shop owners will tell you they can't stand having e-bikes in inventory, working on e-bikes. They're big, they're heavy, they take up a little bit more space. They're difficult to work on. You need like special bike lifts to work on it, like a regular bike lift or a bike stand that can hold like a 20-pound road bike or a 15-pound road bike. Not going to work for a 50, 60-pound e-bike. And that's just for like a nice mountain bike, like one of the commuter style e-bikes. They can easily reach up to 100 pounds, so they just they're not too fond of them, right? So realistically, most US bike shops, I think, would prefer to see a return to just traditional pedal bikes. I think they would all secretly love to just get rid of e-bikes. Something you notice, sentiment amongst people who ride pedal bikes, like mountain bike riders, road bike riders, people who commute on regular style bikes, they really hate e-bikes. They hate e-bike riders. They hate everything about them. Call it what you will. Say it's like, it's like old school versus new school, whatever, or maybe don't knock it till you try it. I don't know. I find myself kind of in the middle of that. I do love e-bikes, obviously. I ride them all the time, and they're very fun. I still love pedal bikes, too. I'm right there in between. I still love riding my pedal bikes, and when I'm on my pedal bike, I see someone on an e-bike, and I'm just shaking my fists like, you son of a gun. I wish I was, 10 years younger. I'd show you what some good old-fashioned leg power could do. So there's that. And here's where this guy proves his pudding. This guy says, no bike should cost $4,000. 50 years ago, you could buy a brand new car for $4,000. Boy, oh boy, do we have some news for him, man. Bikes are expensive now. I sold a bike for $13,000 a few weeks ago. Cannondale Super 6 Evo High Mod 1. I'm actually going to Google this. I mean, for high-end road bikes, I think that's what this is. Oh, he said it right there, obviously. Yeah, it is. Easily can go over $10 to $15,000. Like a high-end S-Works, like that looks nice, but does it look like a $15,000 bike after tax? I don't know. You be the judge. That's more than just about every single e-bike that exists. E-bike, e-moto, whatever you want to call it. That's as much as 3 or 4 of them. Here's someone kind of calls them out, says, bro, it's only been a few days with tariffs and these costs have not flowed all the way through your business cycle yet. I kind of do believe this as well, but I tend to like take firsthand the words of bike shop owners because they kind of see the writing on the wall for certain things before they happen, is what it kind of seems like from, you know, what I can tell. And he goes on to say here, the companies I work with have been talking about tariffs since November. Not to mention the last decade, manufacturers have been leaving China in droves for Taiwan and Vietnam. Taiwan is where I still believe most high-end bikes are made. And like pedal bikes, most nice, road bikes, mountain bikes, BMX bikes were made in Taiwan. They have a lot of good bicycle manufacturing warehouses in Taiwan. So as far as regular bikes, what this guy's talking about, it's clearly is not really going to apply to him as much as like someone who sells strictly e-bikes. They're going to feel the pain a whole lot more, most likely. Here we have Ride One Up. They make really good e-bikes for like most people. If you're not looking for something specific, like something with extremely high power or something that's like a specialty e-bike, I think they have a really good fair amount of options for people who are just looking for a nice solid e-bike. It looks like their prices are still about the same, not really dipping much or going up. The same prices that I can recall seeing from them for the last like 2 years. Seems like they've been pretty stable. If anything, you could imagine that the cost for them is probably going lower. So if anything, the tariffs are probably negated a bit by the fact that they do buy probably a lot of inventory and it's, I would assume, much cheaper than what they resell it for. So, a retailer like this, it's doing like big numbers and they are pretty much primarily direct to consumer as well. You buy off the website, it ships to your house. I think they have a storefront too, but I would assume most of their business comes from online. Probably not going to be hit as hard either. Article here says Trump's tariffs will flatten the U.S. bicycle industry. Businesses are already bracing for a crash. Then came another 50% tariff on Chinese goods. And then here pictures is like an e-bike. This is like a crappy one too. When you see the battery mounted like this, it's just no thought to the design. Warning for anyone who's ever looking at e-bike. If you see this, like a big battery sticking out of the down tube, you're probably about to buy a piece of crap and it's got a big hub motor. It's not necessarily the worst thing, but it's kind of like an outdated design. Most good e-bikes are mid-drive now, so you can't read this article anyway. It's like it's paywalled, but I'm assuming they're talking about the fact that most people are interested in e-bikes and they're about to become more expensive. There's some truth to it, right? Fast Company, this company builds e-bikes in the US, but Trump's tariffs are going to hit it hard and every other bike brand. Another paywall article, but again, they're talking mainly about electric bike brands. Tariffs, they stay in place, will hit the industry hard. Last year, 115 electric bike brands left the market after another round of tariffs went into effect. At the end of the day, here's my real opinion on this. A lot of these e-bike brands, as like mentioned in that last article, were probably going to die out anyway. There is definitely a fast land grab and cash grab for a lot of e-bike companies over the last like 4 years, I want to say, kind of like 1 year post-pandemic where they just started springing up out of nowhere. And they were all like these white label e-bike companies. They would like, if you've ever shopped on Alibaba for e-bikes, they have these catalogs, right, where you can pick what e-bike you want. And there's a ton of different designs and styles. And then if you ever have done that, you would notice that there's a lot of brands in the US that just come up with a nice brand, right? It's basically like another form of e-commerce drop shipping. They come up with a good brand and, a nice website and a beautiful logo and a bunch of nice imagery for the bike. And then they resell it. And they basically are a middleman to drop ship to you. And then as far as warranty stuff, there's nowhere where you can really they don't have a lot of these places that I'm referring to don't have like a brick and mortar place where you can take the bike, right? You reach out to them, they'll ship you some parts, like replacement parts for penny on the dollar. They'll ship you replacement parts probably for cheap. Sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail if it's a really scummy one who's trying to scrape every dime they can, right? You got to really beg for replacement parts. And then you take it to somewhere who will work on an e-bike. Then we go back to the problem of most bike shops. If you're just like an average Joe, you don't know anything about bikes, you buy an e-bike, you take it to a bike shop, they don't want to work on it, and then you're kind of screwed. And then you have an e-bike that's just collecting dust and is broken. We need less of that, right? I think everybody can agree there should be less of that. So I do think this, at the end of the day, if a lot of these companies start dropping like flies, they probably were going to anyway. Right? They probably eventually were going to come across some hardship. that would lead them to not be able to survive in the first place. I think the good companies are all going to come out ahead of this. They will take some losses, but the margins are already crazy on some of these bikes. Like a lot of them are thin for like really nice high-end bikes, but for a lot of e-bikes, the margin is much bigger than a lot of people are aware of. So I think by and large, there's going to be maybe a few handfuls of companies that actually have good customer service and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is with their product, so to speak, and swallow the cost of the whatever extra fees they pay at the port. And, you know, maybe they bump up the cost of the product a little bit, but they'll be fine. Now, the ones that are just like trying to make a quick buck, slapping logos on crappy catalog bikes, bye-bye. You know, like, see ya. I don't think anyone's going to miss them in the first place. So I don't know. Still interesting to see what's going to happen. I guess it's going to be playing out over the next few weeks. Tomorrow, everything's about to go up even more. And maybe they'll go up more later this week, honestly. It's happening so fast right now. It's difficult to keep up. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, and that's it.